Hey, welcome in to the second ever Ask a Home Energy Expert with Project Home and Madison Gas and Electric. We do have some energy experts here, so that's a good thing for you if you're looking for those answers to the questions. Thank you to all the people that submitted questions in advance. We appreciate that. And if you want, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, as you're watching, you can just put questions into the comment section. They will come through to us in our broadcast studio, and we can answer those questions as well as the ones that were sent in early. My name is Jason Hafman. I'm the outreach manager here at Project Home. I have Adam Weisse with us as well, who is our energy expert from Project Home, and Laura Paprocki from MG&E joining us today. Thanks, guys. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, happy to be here.
All right. So before we jump into some questions, do each of you want to give a quick rundown of your energy expertise?
Sure thing, Adam. I'll jump in because that's what I did for about 12 years. I jumped into attics. I jumped into crawl spaces. I did blower doors. I did energy audits on existing homes and new construction. And then I joined MG&E about 3 years ago. So I've just got a lot of boots on the ground experience, whether it's computer modeling or digging through an attic to see what's going on. I've been from, basements to attics and everywhere in between.
Yeah, and I've been with Project Home now for going on 18 years, and in that time, I've worked in the field as an installer, doing work on people's homes, transitioned into doing energy audits through the Wisconsin Weatherization Assistance Program, and we also do energy audits and assessments through Focus on Energy as a trade ally in many different types of homes. So throughout that time here at Project Home, like Laura, we've seen quite a lot of different housing types in our area. And every day we're out in the field answering questions just like these for people that we're working for. And, if you have any questions out there, feel free to jump on and fire away. We'd be happy to answer them for you.
I'll kind of relate this to helping my kids with math homework. So I'm not great at it, but Adam, like you just alluded to, there are so many different housing types and so many different types of buildings that we find and different methods that have been used over the years. But when you look at a big part of what we talk about a lot is energy conservation and making homes more energy efficient, the rules and the principles are consistent and the same, right? So if you know that formula, just like in math, I should have learned more formulas that would help me out. But anyway, the point is, just like in math, if you know the formula, it helps you attack the problem no matter what it is.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's some basic rules that apply for all housing types. I mean, we're basically trying to figure out how, heat, moisture, and air affect your home. And that's the same for every housing type. It just comes in a lot of different flavors. So math is a good analogy.
It's my latest one anyway. All right, so let's jump into some questions here that we had submitted in advance. And we had furnace questions right away, so I don't know who wants to touch this one. But we did have a question. When is the right time of year to replace my furnace? How many years should they last? And what are my options?
Adam, we could probably tag team this. And
sure.
And maybe we'll have different answers. I don't think there's ever a bad time to replace your furnace, except for when it fails on you and it's 0 degrees out and all the heating contractors are already busy. I think that's probably the only bad time to replace your furnace. In fact, I guess I failed to mention at MG&E, I get to answer the home energy line where our residential customers can call in and ask any question. And just a woman yesterday was like, my furnace failed. I'm in a bind. Like, tell me everything you know about furnaces. And so my best advice I can give people is do your homework. If we're going to stick to the school analogy, Jason, do your homework well before it's due, and get a couple of bids for what it would take to replace your furnace well before it's going to fail, so that you kind of have a good idea and you feel comfortable with seeing multiple bids and seeing the options, instead of being caught in that bind where you're like, uh-oh, like, is this a good price? And you don't have time to shop around at that point. So maybe you can take the rest of the question.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like Laura said, there's never really a bad time to do it other than in those emergency situations where you're kind of at the mercy of whoever's available and whatever price they want to charge at that time. I mean, certainly this time of year, that just has to happen if your furnace fails. But if you have some time to plan for that eventuality, my advice to homeowners is typically it's a mechanical system, right? They all fail at some point. So really plan for replacement at some point in the future for your furnace, for your water heater, for appliances. I mean, they all fail. So whatever you're able to save and set aside towards the cost of those replacements, start doing that early, and then plan for installing the most efficient type of equipment that you can at the time you want to replace it when you have those funds saved up, because that equipment's going to be in your house for a very long time. Sometimes not as long as they used to, but that ties into that part of the question: how long do they last? A good furnace is going to last you 15 to 20 years, probably. Probably the best single most important thing that a homeowner can do to take care of and extend the life of their furnace is to regularly change the filter if it's a forced air system. Allowing that filter to get so dirty that the furnace overheats and struggles to move air is one of the biggest failures that we see, or at least the root of all the failures that we see on home heating systems. So 15 to 20 years, there's really never a bad time, and do your research, get multiple bids, make sure the contractors are spelling out exactly what they're installing so you can compare apples to apples, and then install the most energy efficient equipment that you can at the time of replacement. And typically furnaces are going to be rated in something called AFUE, and the higher the number, the better the efficiency. So the closer to 100% efficient you can get, the better. Sometimes that comes at a cost. Many good furnaces, two-stage furnaces out there are probably going to be in that 96% range as far as efficiency goes. And, that's a good middle of the road kind of starting point without too many bells and whistles to get you started.
Well, the next question kind of branches off of one of the options, and that is about two-stage furnaces. What are the benefits of a two-stage furnace? Because I think you look at those options right now, the prices on those, and sometimes the prices of an upgraded, single-stage furnace are pretty close. So what are some of the benefits of going with a two-stage?
Yeah, the main benefit with a two-stage furnace is that there are two firing rates. Furnaces are rated in BTUs delivered per hour, so how much energy or heat energy they can deliver per hour. A typical single-family home in this area is probably going to have a furnace somewhere in that anywhere from 40 to 80,000 BTUs. Some of the bigger homes will be over 100,000 sometimes, but generally speaking, most average home is going to be in that 60,000 BTU range. Furnaces just turn on and off. If it's a single stage furnace, when the thermostat calls for heat, it's 100% on. All the burners are firing until your home reaches that set point at the thermostat. And then the furnace turns off, the house cools down a little bit until the temperature drops enough where the thermostat calls for heat again. And then the furnace fires again at 100% rate. The big benefit with a two-stage furnace is that there are two different firing rates. So when the thermostat initially calls for heat, what can happen is that first stage fires, which is a much lower heating content burner. So maybe you're pumping 15 to 20,000 BTUs into your house instead of 60. So it's going to, for those shoulder seasons or for when it's not extremely cold outside, a majority of the time your furnace would be firing at that lower rate. And it's going to do that every time the furnace calls for heat. And it's going to run at a certain number of minutes. And if it's not satisfied the thermostat set point after a set period of time, whether that's 10 or 15 minutes of operation, it's going to typically kick into that second stage, which is 100% of its capacity, to help you reach that thermostat set point. So the big benefit is you're using less fuel to maintain the set point in your house.
Hey,
do you have anything to add to that, Laura?
Yeah, Adam, the other thing I was thinking to help people think about it is like, imagine if you drove your car and it just had two speeds, right? Like 0 or 50 miles per hour. It's kind of like, in this case, you could also go 25 miles an hour. And so it's like getting to the same place, but less starts and stops. And I think you could probably argue too that there's a little bit of a comfort increase with the two-stage. You just maybe have less of like the furnace coming on 100% and then dropping and on and dropping. It's a little bit more like, you get that comfort wave. So analogies are good, but I agree with Adam that two-stage 96% is a good place to start, especially in our colder climate.
All right, let's transition here to talk about something I know, Laura, you've talked about a lot, and we've worked with them a lot too. But we have a question here. Someone saying I'm relatively new to Wisconsin, but I've learned a little about Focus on Energy. Do your organizations work with them? And let's tell them more about what Focus on Energy is.
Yeah, so Focus on Energy, give them a big shout out, is our state's energy efficiency program statewide. If your utility participates, many do. And so they really are the one-stop shop for everything from getting an energy audit. All the trade allies that participate with Focus on Energy are listed on their site. If you're going to get any incentives, like for insulating or your heating and cooling purchase, they also have fantastic offerings that are free. Like you can go on their website and choose a free energy savings kit. It has a number of different items, might be light bulbs, could be pipe wrap, might even be an advanced power strip, but every household is eligible for one each year. And so they really are a place to help Wisconsin residents save energy. And then they've got a great marketplace too. They've got great offerings on things like wireless thermostats, light bulbs, other light gadgets, if you will, even smart plugs. And so they just are our most robust one-stop shop for energy efficiency in Wisconsin.
Adam, any follow-up?
Yeah, I'd
on
like
Focus?
to add as well that they've got a really great website. Focusonenergy.com. There's some nice tools for homeowners to use where they can just go ahead and enter in their zip code, and tell the search tool what they're looking for, whether that's a new heating system or whether they're looking for insulation or air sealing upgrades to their home, or energy efficient appliances. And it's going to tell you all the different contractors that are available in your zip code, and it's usually arranged geographically, whoever's closest to you in terms of the search results. But they have a very user-friendly website to help you find who can help you with your energy efficiency needs as well. And Project Home's role with Focus on Energy, we are a trade ally in the home performance portion of Focus on Energy. So we do typically insulation and air sealing upgrades to homes, and that's how we participate with Focus on Energy.
So the website there, focusonenergy.com, if you're not aware, and so a lot of great resources, a lot of great information too, just education, information, things that you can, tools you can utilize if you're really interested in saving energy here in the state of Wisconsin. So let's see. Now it's Windows time. I think we have some Windows ones coming up, and I know, Laura, you want to talk about that. So our next person submitted, Janet, says, my house feels drafty. I think it's the windows, but how can I know for sure?
It's such a good question. How can you know for sure, right? There's no magic wand that comes with Windows or the sale of the house. One of the things when I was doing energy audits that I absolutely love to help people figure out was just that, because Windows are expensive. And oftentimes they really get the short end of the stick, meaning, you walk up to them and they feel cold because it's usually just one or two panes of glass. But there's a lot of intricacies that go along with Windows. And when I was doing energy audits, I could set up the blower door. And for those of you who don't know what a blower door is, it's just a large temporary door with a huge fan. And what it does is when you run that fan, it puts an artificial 22 mile per hour wind on all sides of the home. So it forces leaks to leak when we want to investigate them. And so I would use my smoke stick and the infrared camera, and we could figure out really quickly, was air leakage coming just actually through the window? Was it coming around the window frame? Was the window absolutely fine, but the area around the window where the window is set into the home, was there leakage actually occurring there? And what could we do about it? And so having an energy audit and making sure whoever you hire is passionate about window investigation and has a smoke stick and an infrared camera would be my answer. Adam?
Adam, thoughts there?
Yep, a lot of the same information. Those type of tools are really key into determining where those air leaks are actually coming from in a home. You may sit in front of your window at night and feel a draft and not really know where it's coming from. Like Laura talked about, that blower door test coupled with some other diagnostic tools like some smoke generating equipment to find out where the air currents are moving, or an infrared camera to actually see where the cooler surfaces or the warmer surfaces are in your home, to identify exactly where those points of entry for the air movement are really key. So probably reaching out and contacting Focus on Energy to find somebody who can perform a home performance assessment on your home would be the place to start there. But yes, in some instances, it's the windows. In a lot of other instances, it's other things that are near the windows or related to them, but not necessarily the window unit themselves.
Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have to add this in there, right?
Go for it.
There's also the phenomenon, right, Adam and Jason, where warm air from your house is always hot always moves to cold. We learn this, we forget this, but warm air can actually move up to try to warm up that cold piece of glass because it's always going to be the coldest thing in the house. And so we can't see it. But when you're sitting there just watching TV or on a computer, that chunk of air moves towards the window, gets colder because it just gave up its heat to heat up the window, and then it actually drops. And why does it drop? Because cold air is more dense than warm air, so it becomes heavier and it drops. Then it kind of rolls back out into the house. And if we could see it, there are actually interior drafts that are occurring, air movement, which make us feel like, hey, that window must be drafty. But we can't get around the fact that glass is beautiful to look through so we can see to the outside, and yet it's always going to be kind of that coldest place in your house. So, it is what it is.
I was going to hit the low hanging fruit here, and also point out and point out that, we've seen things too where people were getting air infiltration or cold air coming in through their windows, but it was a locking mechanism not, working right, or a bad seal or something like that, something simple sometimes. So you can investigate those things first, right? And then if it's not something like that, energy assessment is really the only way to tell for sure. All right. Next, we will move on. And I think, let's see what this one is. Oh, yeah. Here's another quick window one. Oh, this is some questions about types of windows and quality and what you're looking for. So Jeff is what he says. He needs to replace old windows because they are difficult to open. Want to make an energy upgrade in the process from old windows, but he doesn't want to overpay. What should he be looking for in a quality window? Thoughts? Yeah. Not brand specific thoughts. I mean, that's fine, but anyway.
Boy, the sky's the limit when it comes to windows. Yeah. Sure.
I don't know if Adam.
I would start with you want a good reputable manufacturer that's going to stand by the product.
Adam's breaking up a bit, so Laura, why don't you go?
Yeah, let me jump in.
Go for it.
Yep, yeah, definitely reputable manufacturer. And in the end, I remind people that well, every product is going to be different. They actually are quite the same. And so, you really want to think about, do I want 2 panes of glass? Do I want 3 panes of glass? what type of material do you want the window to be made out of? Are you a lover of like wood material or composite material? Are you happy with vinyl? Vinyl is easy to clean up. Composite material is easy to clean up, meaning like, let's say for some reason you have a lot of moisture in your home and you do the most you can to get rid of it. But let's say you still, for whatever reason, are somebody that maybe finds that there's condensation on your windows. Those people, I'm like, go with a composite or vinyl because you won't end up ruining the wood if you get a real wood window. Other things to think about, like, are what side of the house are the windows on? If you would prefer to actually have the solar gain in a certain part of your home, you can choose a little bit different window that will let more of the solar gain in. And so, they need to be in your price range, double pane. Many of them come filled with argon or different gases. And then the low E coatings. So there are a lot of options, but, doing your homework definitely helps.
Adam's back. Hey, one quick thing I think we've learned too, Adam, maybe you can talk to this, is also the installation of the window means a lot, right? So a bunch of the windows are meet requirements for our climate, but the install is just as important as the quality of the window, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we had spoken about earlier with are my windows drafty? A lot of that goes back to the installation and how well they're installed to make sure that they've got good air sealing all the way around them, and that they're nice and weather tight and tie in to your wall system properly. So you don't have air leaks or even water leaks or moisture damage down the road. So the install, finding a good quality installer, somebody that you can get referrals from trusted friends or relatives, had good experiences with companies, is also key.
Can you follow up quick and give people a quick idea of certain things that should be done on the install? So foam sealing around, there's a lot of people taping right on the outside. Just give people a quick rundown of what some of those products are in the process.
And if Adam can't, I can.
All right. Adam is not confused. I think his video just froze. I know he can answer that. Laura, go for it.
Oh, there he is.
That happens sometimes. All right, Laura, go for it, and I will connect with Adam here in a second.
Okay, well, you're right. The install is as important, and in order to stop the drafts around the windows, not through the windows, you want to make sure your contractor is using a low expansion foam along the top and sides, and oftentimes the bottom as well. We just want to make sure that we're not trapping any moisture or water along that bottom sill. So ensuring they're using a low expansion foam or caulk if the space is small enough, and then absolutely, we want to make sure that the water that might get behind your siding, which will, is directed away from that window, and that is through proper flashing. So flashing tape that is used along the top and the sides to ensure that when water does get into that area, it's actually directed, everything's overlapped in the right way, and that water is just directed to flow down and around and leave the window area. That's where we protect the sills and, we just end up seeing the window have a longer life.
Excellent. Okay, so apologize for a couple of connections here. Adam having a little bit of a rough go connecting, staying tuned in. He's back, though. He's back. He always comes back. You can always count on him for that. Okay, so Laura kind of touched on that stuff real quick. Hopefully the connection's stabilizing for you, because we want you to stay on board here and want to hear your thoughts too. We did have some more questions to jump into. Let me check here. We do have, that's 3. Oh, we had a window follow-up from Donna, and says, are 3-pane windows the best to reduce cold air exchange?
Three pane windows are better than 2-pane windows.
It's math again. We're back to math.
A lot of it has to do with all.
Oh, Adam.
It's not. It's something with the. I think some spots in the building are a little funky with the Wi-Fi. Okay,
Adam.
Laura, go for it. He'll be back. I told
Yeah,
him
man,
try a different spot.
This is truly what you call tag teaming, right?
That's right. And you know what, Adam? I will say this. Adam did an interview with me for a radio show last year, outside in his car in sub-zero temperatures. That's how committed he is to educating people. So he will sit in his car, his freezing car, in the garage, so his dog isn't barking. You can't hear his dog barking, to give the information to people. So he'll be back. I know he'll be back.
Yes, we want him back. But in the meantime, 3-pane windows are not going to stop any more air movement. So when you say reduce cold air exchange, we just want to make sure that we're defining air exchange versus actual heat exchange. 3 panes are going to stop more heat from getting through the window. They are not, though, going to be any different than a double pane window in terms of stopping air exchange. That's all about the work Adam and I talked about around the window. That being said, when you go from 1 pane to 2 panes to 3 panes, the way that window feels when you approach it, when you sit by it, is going to feel warmer, because there is more of an insulating factor. And, I always kind of joke about windows, because when you go from a single pane to a double pane, you're increasing your efficiency by 2 times, right? So not 3 times with 3 panes, but the R value of glass is an R1. So really you're just going from an R1 to an R2 to an R3, but you throw the bells and whistles in there with the different gases and the low E coatings. And so I would say, yes, 3 panes of window, or 3 window panes, is going to be the best, and it will also be the most expensive.
Perfect. Adam, anything to say on that? Just tell people this. Oftentimes we're installing windows for customers through a number of programs, and we find a quality window is what?
So I would say a quality window is kind of that intersection of features to cost. So you're going to get the best value, most bang for your buck, with a good quality. Vinyl replacement is pretty typical, or fiberglass replacement window in our climate. Lifetime warranty. Most manufacturers have a nice lifetime warranty on them as well. And it really does go back to that installation that we started talking about earlier, and how well the window is installed.
We got a great comment here
really
from
is key. You can get a great top of the line window, but if the install is not great, it's not going to perform as intended, and you're throwing good money after bad.
Got it. We got a great comment here from a previous customer. We did some energy improvements for, so I just wanted to throw that up. Thank you, Nurki. We appreciate that. Appreciate that comment. Appreciate people chiming in on Facebook and during the live broadcast. We did have some more questions submitted in advance, so let's jump back over to some of those. I know here's one that we like to talk about. That's a lot of fun, actually. And let's see, where did it go? Okay. Yes, here it is. Can you explain the process of dense packing exterior walls and the benefits? This is a fun one.
Adam, go for it.
Okay. All right. So we'll start with the benefits first, because the process sort of depends on access and type of siding that you have on your home. But the benefits of a dense packed insulation in your walls are that in one process, the act of dense packing insulation in your wall, you get both insulation and air sealing benefits. And the way we like to tell people to sort of, back to that analogy thing, the way we like people to think about their home is just think of it as a body. If you're out in the cold winter and you only have a sweater on and the wind is blowing through that sweater, yes, the sweater has some insulation value, but if you've got that wind blowing through it sucks the heat right out of your body, and your home is really no different. If you've got a good insulation layer but poor air barrier where the wind can get into your home, it's going to draw more heat out of your home. Whereas if you're wearing a sweater and a windbreaker or some sort of shell over that sweater that's going to stop that wind from hitting you, you're really going to feel the benefits of both the insulation and the air barrier. And that's what we want people to think of when they're thinking about improving their home. How can we improve the insulation and the air barrier in our home for maximum effectiveness? So as you dense pack a wall, you're packing insulation in to a specific density in the wall cavity where it completely fills the cavity to give you that insulation benefit, but it also, at that specific density, does not allow for airflow through it, or it greatly minimizes airflow through it, which can also give you that sort of sweater and shell analogy and give your home the best bang for the buck and the best performance. Now, the question of how to is really complicated because it goes back to a lot of different variables, but most typically, if you take your standard home with vinyl siding or even wood siding, any kind of cladding on the outside that's sort of plank or boards, you can usually peel up a course of siding around the perimeter of your home, drill through the sheathing underneath that siding to access the wall cavities themselves. And then from the exterior, you can blow insulation into the wall cavity using an insulation blower through a tube. So you have maybe a 2-inch access hole where you're installing this insulation into the wall cavity. Then that hole can be plugged and made weather tight, and the siding can get reinstalled over the top of that access point. In certain instances, you're going to need to drill from the inside as well to access small building cavities that may not be accessible from the outside. If you look at your roof overhangs and they come down right to the top of your windows, but yet you go inside the house and look above your window and there's still maybe a foot or 16 inches of wall space above your window, those are cavities that can't be accessed from the outside, at least not easily. So it's more than likely that you're going to drill into each of those cavities right through the face of your wall and the inside. Again, maybe a 2-inch access hole where that hole, after the insulation is installed, can be patched and spackled and repainted. So, you know, there's really very little evidence that somebody was there to insulate your walls after you've had that done in a retrofit situation nowadays. In years past, you know, you can drive around any city in this state, and if somebody had insulation installed in their wall cavities back in, say, the 70s or even early 80s, you can see these plugs, these little plastic plugs or wood plugs in people's siding spaced at about 16 or 24 inches all the way around the house. And those were the access points to insulate walls. We don't do that anymore. You know, it looks terrible. It's an access point for water. So it's much more common to take siding off, drill through the sheathing, and install the insulation that way. Plug things up, make it nice and weather tight, and then you've got a good insulated and air sealed home all in one step. And then there's very little evidence that people were there to do that work.
It's good stuff. Yeah, the process is most of it, like Adam said, happens outside. It's quite a process. Really impactful though, right? Incredible the difference it can make. So love that question about dense packing. Thank you, Britt. We are moving on. We know a common building practice to create more space was to build over garages. And Rita says the room above our garage is so cold. How can we make it more comfortable?
I can tackle this one. So this is actually a great segue from talking about dense packing, because when I was doing energy audits and I would find these areas, I would drill a hole, 2-inch hole, just to see what's going on. And oftentimes, if there had been insulation there, it has dropped down over time just due to gravity. And so there's, left, a big space in between the top of that insulation and the bottom of that floor. And so it would make sense, that area is getting cold. And so what they can do is actually dense pack the garage ceiling. So just like Adam explained, drilling the holes in the sidewalls, this would be done in the garage ceiling. And then the insulation would get packed all around all the different wires. And if there's any duct work running in there, all those nooks and crannies get sealed. And that's important because oftentimes, not only do you want to be adding that insulation, but especially with the garage below it, you want to be making sure that it's airtight. So getting that 2-in-1 benefit from the dense packing, and then other air sealing from down below that's possible, caulking, foaming, things of that nature are super important. Adam, anything else?
Maybe just a caution, a couple cautions. Number one, wires, plumbing, ductwork, things like that. You have to be very careful about ducting to make sure you don't fill the duct up with insulation when you're doing this type of work, whether that's packing the ceiling of your garage or the walls of your home. The other thing you have to keep an eye on is the plumbing, to make sure that those plumbing pipes are in the warm side of that insulated cavity, so you're not, further isolating them by putting insulation between your house and the pipe, which could lead to frozen pipes in the wintertime. Generally speaking, to properly dense pack a wall or a ceiling cavity or any building cavity, you generally need to hire an insulation contractor. They do rent insulation blowing machines at a lot of the big stores when you purchase them. Many of the machines have enough force to actually adequately dense pack the insulation to the proper density. They're just not powerful enough. You generally need a bigger truck-mounted blower to actually achieve the correct density, because if you try and use something that's not powerful enough, yes, you'll achieve the benefit of filling up those wall cavities with insulation, but over time, that insulation can settle, and you'll get voids at the top of your wall cavity, and it won't be dense enough to really prevent that air leakage or that air movement through the wall either. So I guess just that as a caution.
Yeah, very specialized work. People need to know what they're doing, what they're putting into certain cavities. And there's different types of insulation sometimes that need to be used in certain, particular around certain building materials. So as a homeowner, not necessarily advised to just go and rent a blower and grab some insulation, try to take care of that yourself. We would not advise doing that. But the work can be really impactful. It can help solve those issues for you. Okay, so we're going to transition a little bit into renewables now, because we had some questions about that. And then I know there's a big announcement, Laura, that you wanted to get to as well. We'll bring up right after that, but I think we'll take this question first. Cassie says that we can't do solar panels at our house, but we want to get more energy from renewable sources. What options does MG&E have through or for MG&E customers, I guess?
Yeah, so we have a number of different options. One would be Green Power Tomorrow. This is a program where you pay a penny more per kilowatt hour. So for our average customer, that ends up being about $5 more per month. And your energy is coming from our wind, our local wind, a little bit of local solar, and even some biogas. So that's a really simple way. I mean, it's just a matter of calling up an MG&E and saying, I'd like to sign up for Green Power Tomorrow, or you can even do it online yourself by logging into your account, your MG&E account. The second way is through a program called Shared Solar. We had our first two shared solar programs sell out, so it's popular. And what it is that they're local solar fields. The last one was at Middleton Airport, and you essentially pay an upfront fee, but you're reserving a certain amount of panels that can represent anywhere from 10 up to, like, if you want to participate at 50% of your electricity use, you can, and then you pay. It's like almost like half a penny, maybe a penny more for your electricity usage, but that is then kept at that price for 25 years. So if regular electricity prices increase, yours is not going to. And you can be comfortable knowing that 100% of your electricity is coming from green energy. So Green Power Tomorrow and Shared Solar. Those are a really nice combo. Shared Solar right now has a wait list where I got my fingers crossed that that there will be another Shared Solar that is yet to be known, but they were definitely popular programs.
Yeah, I love that, Laura. And then you also talked, I think you mentioned this similar situation for yourself, right? Where solar panels at your house, we talked about that, I think, last month.
Yep, you bet. So we actually, as a family, we participate in both of those programs. So shared solar at 50%. I was able to get into the last project, and then green power tomorrow at 50%. So MG&E just kind of does the math for you because they just make sure that every month you're at 100% renewable energy. And so for us, it was easy. Yes, it costs a little bit more, but it's what I believe in. And actually, over time, shared solar, if you assume like inflation rates, you'll actually see a return on your investment. So you are saving the environment, saving money.
If I had a snare drum nearby or a snare drum sound effect, I would play it now. Laura's got an announcement from MG&E. So, Laura, why don't you tell people about where things are headed here with the energy future and how MG&E is leading the way?
Yeah, so our CEO of MG&E just announced that we have set our sights on 80% carbon reduction by 2030. So that we just went from 65 to 80% carbon reduction by 2030. And the retirement of Columbia, which is our main plant that still uses coal, is going to be retired 15 years ahead of time in order to really pursue our goal of carbon-free electricity by 2050. Now, for me, this is a huge commitment, and MG&E always has said if we can go further, faster by partnering with our community, we will, and we ourselves are chipping away at that. So. In closing Columbia earlier, we have so we've set our goal, right? We've set our goal at 80%, but the pace is yet to be determined. But by retiring Columbia earlier, we are going to be replacing that generation with renewables. It's a lot of numbers, but I'm an engineer and I love it. And so between 2015 and the end of 2024, we will have brought on 400 megawatts of renewables. And that is super exciting because I know a lot of people call in and say, I want to reduce my carbon footprint. How do I do that? So, I listed the green power tomorrow, shared solar, but, you can also trust that MG&E is doing their part and we are attempting to do it as fast as we possibly can, and yet also do it safely and reliably because, energy is interesting, right? It's everywhere, but you never see it. But it's not there when you go to flip on your light and, things don't work. And knowing that MG&E has been rated #1 in reliability in 2020 throughout utilities nationwide is huge. I mean, yes, we want green energy, but we also want it to be very reliable and safe. And so this was a really fascinating announcement. And part of moving away from coal will be a transition, and that transition will be utilizing a bit more natural gas. So we have invested in a highly efficient natural gas plant. And this is the way it's going to be until we can load up with even more renewables and batteries. And so this deep decarbonization is partially going to be done through something called electrification. So just moving more pieces of equipment to be run by electricity versus natural gas. And so this gets interesting because in colder climates, we've always thought of natural gas as things to like fireplaces, water heating, furnaces, but there are new pieces of equipment coming onto the market, things like air source water heaters that run off of air source heat pump technology, highly efficient, more efficient than just a regular electric tank water heater. And if you're already using renewable energy, then your carbon footprint is going to be, even smaller. And while it's not completely mainstream yet, air source heat pumps for heating and cooling are definitely, Jason, the next step towards deep decarbonization. That homeowners could do, right? You can achieve deep decarbonization by doing things like considering driving an electric vehicle and moving transportation, your own personal transportation to a cleaner option. But I just wanted to bring up that announcement, and then also that people can be looking for and asking about other types of equipment than what we typically have seen in the past. And again, that's a lot of that air source heat pump technology.
That's exciting stuff. Also, just to point out the fact on EVs, MG&E has done a lot too to make electronic vehicles easier for people to, charge and function and have and operate, by creating public stations, right, for charging and all those things. So those are all big benefits that the company has helped lead.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the Charge at Home program. So if you want help getting a charger installed, we've got you. You don't have to deal with the electrician. We deal with all of that. We even deal with your own monthly payment, so you don't have an upfront fee. We've got an EV owners group where you get 50% off of your charging if you sign up. Just lots of different programs for people to really feel like they're doing their part. We really truly are at a time where this is where we all come together, and no savings is too small. And so looking to all these different ways to achieve using energy efficiently and in a greener way takes people asking questions of contractors and considering new options, and just really always thinking about energy efficiency.
I know there's a lot of great info on MG&E's website too, educational information about these different technology advancements in energy. So great resources just by heading to the website for MG&E. I'm going to head to the next question here, and because it's a common one, it's also one where we see a lot of our housing stock locally are people living in apartments. And Ethan says, I live in an apartment. What are some ways I can help save energy?
Adam, we can tag team this one. Unless Adam's frozen. Apartment dwellers are...
Sure. Yeah, I guess the biggest thing in an apartment is controlling.
With Adam's connection, rough today, but Laura, go for it. Yeah. Those are you're doing something live, right? This is part of the gig. Sometimes you got to roll with it.
It is. Okay, so apartment dwellers, there are many of you, and we want you to save energy too. And controlling your thermostat is huge. Plug loads are huge. What do we mean by plug loads? All the things that plug into outlets. Now, a lot of them can actually continue to use energy even when you think they're off, right? Because lots of things have remote controls. Lots of things have sensors these days. And so it's called phantom energy. And Focus on Energy. If you haven't ordered your free kit, Focus on Energy has a free kit with an advanced smart strip in it that helps reduce this phantom plug load. And it does it in a really fancy way that I'm not going to get into now, but it recognizes when things are actually not being used, and it turns them off, just stops energy from going to them. And so that phantom energy is cut, is reduced. The other thing too is just being mindful of how the sun enters your apartment. If it's winter, let it through. If it's summer, really consider some shading. And that can just be simple shades on the inside, or even like, could you plant something on a balcony that grows fast, like morning glories, and they might create like a break for you. But controlling the thermostat, controlling the plug loads, and controlling the sun, the solar game. Those are the top ones.
I think it's tough sometimes, right? If you're in an apartment, if you're in a place that has an attic above you, say like a 2-story townhouse, something like that, you have more impactful things that you could potentially do to the outside of the structure. If you're in, let's say, an apartment with another apartment above and things like that, there's less things you can do, but a lot related to the electrical load, like you said. And there still are many things you can do to help contribute to conserving energy in our community, but also help yourself on your bill a little bit.
Yep. Just a lot of mindful practice of turning things off.
Love that. Okay, great. Thanks for those tips on that. We had another insulation question. I have this other one that I want to pull up, but I was hoping to have Adam on for that. If his connection comes back, we'll do it. Otherwise, I can cover it. Lauren says that she wants to add some insulation to her attic. What's better, blown-in fiberglass or cellulose?
Do you want to cover it, Jason?
No. This is all you.
Okay.
I have a different question that I have a photo
I see.
for.
Okay.
Demonstration photo, a real life, dramatic photograph for this next question that we're going to bring up. But not this one. This one is all you.
Exciting. Well, I would say there's no bad insulation, but in an attic, I really like to see cellulose in an attic. It holds up well to high temperature differences, which is what an attic is. An attic can be 0 degrees, and then in summer it can be a blazing over 100 degrees. So whatever is in that attic needs to be able to handle wide temperature swings. And also cellulose, it doesn't form as many air packets from the way that I understand it to be, and it really provides not complete air sealing. As we've discussed, you need to have an attic air sealing package, and I should have said that first. I should have answered this question with a first, always make sure that you're going to have an attic air sealing package. That's where all those nooks and crannies in the attic get sealed up with either foam or caulk, and it stops the warm air from rising. And so cellulose would be my take, Lauren, and it's also recycled newspaper. So how can you go wrong, right? It's something we don't have to throw away, and you don't have to worry about it getting moldy or gross. It's treated with what it needs to get treated with. So, you can know that you've kept some newspapers out of the landfill, and you're saving energy.
Sorry, Laura, I didn't mean to throw you off. That was supposed to be hidden. My photo was supposed to be hidden there for a while, but I think it popped on screen. It is very dramatic, though, and it's related to our next question here that was submitted. Pat is saying that Pat's dryer is taking longer time to dry clothes lately. Is there anything I should check before seeing if you need to buy a new one? Well, the first and most obvious thing that oftentimes when it gets super cold out, people don't think about doing is cleaning out the dryer vent at where it comes out the side of your house. So getting in there, because that can clog up with lint, especially if you're going months and months because it's really cold outside and you don't want to go out there even think about it. The lint can build up. We all have the lint screens on our dryers, and those catch some, but there's still lint that gets past that, and that can build up in the venting, and then it ends at the point where it exits the house. And oftentimes those hoods on the outside have extra pieces there, or little side grates or whatever, that kind of to prevent animals from coming in through there. But it also can be stuff that catches more lint, and if you don't clean it, that builds up. That makes your dryer take longer to dry because there's less space for the heat to get through. It's kind of like a plug almost. And then in addition to that, it is a fire hazard if that builds up in your venting, right? So this is a real life picture. This is actually Adam's hand that I have to add now to the stream. This is Adam's hand, a real life picture at a customer's home that he pulled out, right? And this is it. It was in
Jason, are you sure that's
drive.
not an animal? Are you sure that's not actually an animal?
No. And look, there's a toothpick in there. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff there, right? So this was something that Adam discovered at a customer's house who had this kind of issue. And, just by cleaning at the outside. Now, the other thing that does is making sure you can clean that port, because sometimes that lint can build up throughout the venting system that goes from the dryer to the exterior of the house. And sometimes you got to clean that out too and take it apart. And that's part of maintenance. But if you unclog the end and then you run your dryer again, sometimes that stuff that's in the pipe will loosen up and then work its way out too. And you're in good shape. So that's the first place to check before you buy a new dryer. I'm not against buying a new dryer if that's what you want, but that's the easiest fix and the first place to check.
I love it, Jason. I also want to remind people, short and straight. That's how
Yes.
you want. That's how you want your dryer venting to be, as short as possible and as straight as possible. And nobody ever wants to do it because, because when I did audits and I would look behind people's dryers, I'd always find like mismatched socks and like old dryer sheets. I was like, nobody's looked back here in years, but you got to look back there because things can get scrunched. The venting, can get scrunched. It can come unattached. You need to look in all these places that are not convenient to look in. Because, it's how you figure out how to make things better. So short and straight venting, and yes, clean it out. I love it.
Sometimes it's the simple answers. Those are the ones we prefer. They're also the least expensive. So anyway, but that's a good thing. It's a good reminder, especially this time of year too, to check that. Usually monthly, check the dryer vent where it comes out of the house. If you're looking for a clue, if you're not sure if that's a bath fan or that, look where the most snow has melted around the vent. That's probably the dryer one. Just a heads up. And they usually come out right at kind of that basement level. And then, don't try to create your autograph with with corrugated dryer venting as you get it from the dryer to the port to go outside. Nobody does that. But sometimes there are some long runs and they get bent or they get slinky. And there's convenience in that, being able to move the dryer while it's still attached. But that can also be a trap for you for issues like that. Very good.
Yeah, and don't if you buy a house or you have something where they have a little contraption like on the vent where there's like a switch and you can actually let the warm air out. Don't just take that off or keep it shut. Like I found some of those when I was doing audits. You do not want any of that hot, moist air coming into your basement. Like, even though we get dry in winter in Wisconsin, right? You don't want that bulk moisture into your basement. It will condense and get moldy and gross. Like, just make sure that dryer vents outside.
Very good point. Bath fans too. Check your bath fans. Just a quick tip. Well, that does it for us pretty much for the hour. So I want to thank Adam's here. He is still here in spirit. I can see him there. And he did everything he could to stick with us and gave us some good answers. Laura, thanks for all your time and your expertise. And thanks for everyone that contributed and participated in this. Hopefully you learned some things. Remember, if you didn't catch everything or you want to go back and rewatch something, it's available on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter all after the live is done as we wrap up. But thanks so much for being interested in energy, saving energy, and the energy future. And Laura and Adam, thanks for telling people about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's save more in 2022 than ever.
All right. You guys take care. Be safe. Again, great resource, MG&E or MGE.com, MGE.com. Good resources for customers about all the things we talked about today. And our website is projecthomewi.org. Laura, that's a great announcement today as well. We're excited about that energy future. Reduce that carbon.
Totally. It just feels liberating. It feels awesome, and MG&E is leading the way, and I'm proud of them. And we're fortunate. I am an MG&E customer, so maybe that's also why I get excited.
And we get a quick thank you from Donna as well. Donna, thank you for checking it out today, as well as everyone else. All right. Stay well, be safe, save energy. Take care of your community. Catch you next time.